Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Burning Hits Fantasy Football. I'm here with Scott Hinty, and we're going to review the first round of the playoffs. We're going to go through, we're going to just bypass waivers here and just go right into it. And we had Snowball taking down the Cat Dog in pretty dominant fashion. Um, Good old Mark Andrews.
Yep.
Stein, I'm not sure if he said his lineup. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, West Coast boy.
he,
Not.
yeah, I don't know how he didn't set it, but yep.
Yeah, kind of screwed the pooch there. I'm not sure he would have won either way, but
No, I don't think he would have played Huntley, but I think that was the only way that he could have done that.
and Tony beat out the match of the inactives, but actually I think looks like Matt set his lineup, but still lost. Uh,
Yeah, last week was week 15 was just awful.
yeah, and then you pulled out one against Smart, and did Smart set his lineup?
I don't know if he did or not.
It looks like
Left
he may
Hopkins in
have,
there.
but didn't respond to Hopkins being out. But that
Yeah.
was a little bit later in the week. And this week, just in general, was fucking weird. So, just trying to keep up with everything and all the movement was just kind of a pain in the ass. So let's hope that it's not like that in week 16 or the championship. Um, Anything you want to go over with the last week, or do you want to go right into
I'm just gonna throw this out there just because I know this off the top of my head. Najee Harris, Tom Brady, um, Mike Evans was injured, but Mike Evans, um, all three of those had the fewest points of the entire season, and they're pretty heavily rostered players. And there's a lot more players who just had the worst weeks of their entire year.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of teams in the playoffs this year had Tom Brady, and
Yeah.
boom, that'll end you pretty quick. It's a weird league, and it's funny. Like, was it Stein who had? I think someone that Alex, I think, had Brady and Lamar in
In
Dynasty.
Dynasty, yeah.
Yeah, which is just kind of brutal. How random
Also,
things can go.
Tyler Huntley, uh, two passing, two rushing touchdowns, and Lamar Jackson has never done that.
Whoa, that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild. Well, now we're heading in to the big week, pre-championship week. We got Lestrange and Snowball. We got Greg and Nick P. And then we've got a fifth place thing. But then the consolation bracket, pretty big. Me and you in the semis. You versus Kuzi, me versus Beats. It's gonna be a big matchup. Do you want to start with consolations, or do you want to start with?
Yeah, let's start with the consolation bracket.
Okay, we'll start from the top, and we'll go with me versus Beats. Right now we've got looks like Beats. I don't think it really matters if he changes lineup, but his
I
team's
don't.
still insane.
Yeah.
Um,
Um.
you go.
All right, I'll just go ahead and start. I think Justin Fields is a great play. I know last week was not great for him, but even with that, I'm pretty sure he finished as a top 12 quarterback during the week. I know he was number 9 going into last night, and I know that uh, the Redskin or the Washington football team's quarterback didn't beat him. Um, Hurts beat him, but there's no way Wilson beat him. So yeah, he finished as a top 12 quarterback, and I think he's a great play against the Seattle defense. He's starting to look better and better. That game was just so awful in the red zone, and I can't see the Bears doing that again. So
Yeah, the like it's weird with fantasy. Like, he didn't have a great fantasy game, but he had like a really efficient game. Outside the fumble, he would have been at 17 points, which is, solid. It's not amazing, but it's solid. But I mean, his completion percentage was good. Looked like he played well the whole game. So that's really what you're looking for like a up and coming rookie QB. So I'm pretty happy with that. And Seattle, it was between Burrow And him and Burrow, to me, he's just been really inconsistent a little bit. Like you get
Yeah.
those big games, but he has really low floor. Um,
Oh, I didn't realize. Actually, with Burrow going up against the Ravens and their defense being just so bad, Burrow, that's a tough call on who I would play there between those two.
I still haven't totally decided. I'm probably leaning towards Fields. Just maybe he can get like two rushing touchdowns, but we'll see. Just Burrow sometimes is just very tough, and yeah, it makes sense that Baltimore, they might be able to throw a lot, but nothing really has ever made sense this year. So it's kind of like hard to have much. Whenever you're believing in a team, they just disappoint you. It seems so. It's hard for me
Yeah.
to really get behind logic at this point. Um, the one other thing I'm thinking about is I'm assuming I'm going to put in Williams over Sutton, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the team. I'm hoping Edmonds gets some big plays after Connor got hurt a little bit. I'm not sure if Connor came back, but that was a very weird game.
I think if I was you, I think I wouldn't. I think I would actually, out of all those players, I think I would go with Kirk.
Christian Kirk. Oh, that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. Yeah, with
You
who's
don't have
what's out.
Yeah, you don't have Hopkins there. So I think it's really just between him and AJ Green for most of the targets. Moore had an ankle injury. So it's really narrowing down like the targets there. And they have a much better passing offense than the Broncos. And Mike Williams, he's a good play, but he's so boomer bust. It really can it can just devastate your team.
Yeah, that's true. It's just do you play it safe against Tony or do you go for the boom play, which is always a weird
Which is
thing.
weird because his roster's inactive, but that roster at this point is it's pretty solid.
Yeah,
He
number one
might win the
QB.
consolation bracket without changing anything.
Yeah, we drafted him too well. Number one running back, number one receiver. Pretty
Yeah,
annoying.
whoever takes the spot in the league might have the number one pick coming in the next year.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have confidence in myself. Pick myself. Who do you lean towards?
I'm also gonna have confidence in you. I think Tony's team is definitely stacked, and it's you're gonna have to have a good week. But I think you can pull it off with the players that you have, and it'll just be nice to get him out of the playoffs. But I mean, either quarterback I think is a good play, and I think you will have enough points and stability throughout that you'll be pretty solid.
It's gonna be a close one.
Yes, it will.
Okay, so we're going to your matchup, which is gonna be you versus Kuzi in an epic duel. But you're not looking too good right now. What do you
Ooh.
like and dislike about your team?
Um, about my team, I like that I have Kittle. Uh, he's just been so solid since he's come back from the injury. He's looked really solid. Um, and obviously, I like both of my running backs this week. I don't like um, my defense or my wide receivers. They're really scary to me having to go with AJ Green and Lazard. Um, I'm hoping I get more good news about AJ Brown and I can pull AJ Brown in and put him in this week. And then I also really like Justin Jackson this week. Um, you saw him get some pretty solid work against Kansas City, who's had a pretty good defense. But Eckler still banged up, and you're playing Houston. They might give him a little bit more rest because I mean you can basically run on Houston with anyone. So I'm hoping to get a sneaky play out of Justin Jackson
Yeah,
this week.
Justin Jackson's a weird player because he's been sort of people have been thinking he's going to get more and more reps for like 4 years, and then they got a rookie running back like Kelly who started taking reps from him. It didn't. It was very strange because every single time I've seen him out there, he's looked good. So hopefully, he'll get the touches. You're going to be on kicker watch. I think the
Yes.
Chargers defense is okay. I think whenever you see a team like Houston, who had a big week last week against a really like not great team with Jacksonville, generally that means they're going back down. I don't really trust Davis Mills all that much.
I, I will say, surprisingly, Davis Mills has actually had the most 300-yard passing games out of any other rookie quarterbacks this year.
The bar is not high here.
It
uh,
is still pretty shocking, though. He might be a sneaky top QB out of this class.
yeah. Um, I actually really like AJ Green. Lazard is scary, definitely scary. But hopefully you can get a touchdown out of it.
My
Um,
hopes are MVS is out this week, which should lock Lazard in as the guaranteed number two
yeah.
because MVS is on the COVID list now.
And then when we're looking at Kuzi's team, it's always hard to read Kirk Cousins. But he's not playing a prime time. I think the last time they played the Rams, from what I remember, was like his first year with the Vikings, and it was a shootout. So it might be like that, but really, Vikings are a good analogy for the league just in general. They're just impossible to trust, and you don't know what you're going to get every week out of them,
Yeah,
but you know it'll probably be a close game. So I'm
that
assuming
is
he'll put up
true.
decent points, but it's
Yeah. Last time he played the Rams, he put up 30 fantasy points. Uh, he was 36 of 50 for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards.
yeah, it's pretty good. But it's a while. It's been a while. Different team. They've Von Miller back and all that jazz. And Donald still as dominant as he has ever been.
Yeah.
Um, he's got pluses with Robinson's probably gonna get touches again against the
Yep.
Jets.
Robinson's going to have a great game against the Jets because it's basically mandatory to have 100 yards at least and a touchdown against the Jets.
Yeah,
Um,
and then
maybe Mitchell will be out, but I mean, even then, he's got Wilson, so he's pretty set for his running backs this week.
yeah, but
Dallas against Washington's great play. Um,
Mitchell, Tennessee's a tough team. And San Fran likes to really do a lot of different things with their running backs. Mainly put Debo Samuel at running back, so that could be kind of a backbreaker for Kuzi. If you're gonna pull off this, that's probably what's gonna sort of have to happen. And then you're gonna have to hope that Heineke comes back and doesn't plays like
turn the
Brett
ball
Favre
over.
without the interceptions, and score some points on Dallas because they're back against the wall here. I think Washington pretty much has to win, or else they're pretty much headed home. And you just gotta have a couple things go your way. Hopefully, Renfro. I don't think Renfro had a yeah. Renfro had a
Nope.
really bad game
He
last
had a
week.
bad game last week, but I don't see that continuing. I think he'll bounce back this week.
Yeah, you just gotta pray Carr throws to Jones and Edwards, and hopefully Waller gets back. But he generally plays really well against Denver, so that's gonna be a tough move. So what's your confidence level for your team?
I'm going to have confidence with my team. I think I have enough pieces, and I think like I'm looking at this and like a kicker is replaceable. Um, hopefully, we can get rid of kickers in the near future. But I think I have enough players on my team that can have some really big weeks this week um, to kind of overcome the like what Kuji's team could have. So
Yeah, I'm gonna
I
lean.
am. I do think if I win though, it will be extremely close, and I'll need Kuzi to have some players who underperform.
Yeah, you're gonna need like a goose egg or two, maybe. I'm gonna
Really a goose egg,
yeah, but
but
essentially, I'm leaning towards the number one fan of Kuzi, so I'm gonna pick Kuzi here. It just seems like a tough go, but it would be interesting to battle in the consolation bracket. But it could end up being Kuzi and Tony, so that would be interesting too. But all right, let's get to the big dogs. We're gonna go to the playoff picture and let's start with Nick P and Greg, actually,
All right.
and we'll pull that up. We have Nick P still running with. It's funny looking at the difference in running backs. So what do you see, and what do you like dislike?
Well, I really like Chris's running backs compared
Yeah,
to. um, no, beyond that though, Greg's running backs this week actually have some pretty tough matchups, minus Patterson, who's also technically a wide receiver. But I mean, I don't like you saw Henderson back for the first game last week. He only had 5 carries. Um, or my bad, he didn't have 5 carries. I'm looking at the wrong game. He had 6 carries. Sorry.
big difference.
Yeah, big difference. I apologize. I think that with the way Michelle played, with Henderson being out, they're gonna kind of mix the workload still. So I think that really caps his upside. Aaron Jones also just scares me with like AJ Dillon being there, and like if that game gets out of hand, I feel like the Packers have been giving the ball more to Dillon for the like close out the game type of carries. But outside of that, like he has such a high ceiling with Cook every week, and especially this week with Patterson going up against Detroit. I think it'll be tough to overcome. I don't think Waller is back this week. I'm surprised that he's still questionable. And if Waller is out, that will definitely give a nice leaning tilt towards Travis Kelce if he's back off the COVID list.
Yeah, it's been weird that basically Waller's been questionable for how long? Like half the season. It almost feels like only 3 weeks actually. But when it's like that, you
Yeah.
expect they might just wall job him and say come back next year. But I mean, they're still in the playoff hunt, but who knows? It's going to be interesting if the Cleveland defense is who Nick P wants to start against Green Bay.
Yeah.
I think that they're a little underrated with this 5.7 because I think they really are going to show up against Green Bay, but it's Green Bay, so that's generally pretty scary. As
I
opposed,
mean, I just went out on the waiver wire, and I'd say Nick P has an abundance of choices this week. He's got Philadelphia against the Giants, who have officially ruled Daniel Jones out for the season. Seattle's a scary play, but you are playing Chicago, and they've turned the ball over a few times, even though I think their defense is getting better. Yeah, Green Bay against Cleveland, which I am actually a pretty big fan of.
yeah, that
You got
seems the right call.
against the Jets, which is a good play. I'd say there's enough other defenses out there that you can go make a move and get a better defense for this week.
Yeah, part of me, the Raiders are awful, but part of me kind of likes the Raiders against Denver if Locke's going to play.
Yeah.
But that's a very risky play for a playoff matchup. It's funny seeing Chris Gregg's team of one receiver.
Yeah,
It's
with Cordell Patterson having the multi-tag.
yeah. I wonder if Henderson is the right play, but it's tough with the Bengals receivers about picking Higgins because now it looks like Boyd's finally getting his touches this year. But if Thielen is back, I'd probably go with Thielen just because of Cousins
I
really
don't think
liking
I would,
Thielen.
just because of the fact that I don't think that he plays. I was shocked that he was even questionable last week. He has a high ankle sprain, and those tend to be really tough to come back from. Typically, it's like a 4 to 6 week injury, like for like a full recovery. He's been gone 2. I really don't think that he plays, and if he does, I'm not sure how effective he'll be. I do know that he has Antonio Brown on his bench. Um, so I think going Antonio Brown this week because I don't think that the Buccaneers will play Evans with the hamstring injury, and then obviously Godwin's done for the year. So I think AJ Brown would be the guy to basically put in there, and I'd probably put him in over. I think Henderson would be the guy on his team that I would take out.
Yeah.
I
I
also Deontay Foreman's a great play, so I'm not sure where you could stick him in the lineup, but uh, yeah,
yeah. I mean Tennessee. It seems like almost any running back. I mean, I think they ran for like 200 yards last week, and they seem to just get it done regardless. They can run block. They can't pass block, but they can run block. One thing that I just like about Thielen is, if you're going against the Rams and he does play, Ramsey's probably going to be on Jefferson.
true.
So you're looking probably he's going to be looking Thielen's way a little bit more. I would probably stay away from just Lockett just because he's
Because your
scary.
team is so loaded, like because his team
Yeah,
is so like set, putting a guy like Lockett in there, like he's more of like a boom. He's a boom bust guy, so you
yeah,
really need him more if you're trying to overcome like a giant point differential. He might be a good championship week play, but I wouldn't play him this week whenever you have the projected points.
yeah. He was on a bit of a run, but he's still a big play guy. He needs those like 4 catches for 80 yards type deal. Um, but yeah, I mean his team just is so deep. But looking at Nick P's team, you got Connor, who hopefully will be back for him because if he doesn't have him, he's in deep shit. But it's tough. That's gonna be on a Saturday. But that's going to
Yeah,
be a really interesting matchup in Indianapolis. I think a lot of people have Indy just because of how bad Arizona's run D is against Jonathan Taylor. So it might be a little bit of a slugfest, and they might be running it back down their throats, but they could do every which way. It seems like Cardinals are almost in a little bit of a crisis mode here.
yeah, they're
So
really falling apart from what they started off this season as.
yeah, it feels a lot like last year, but it'd be a big thing if they run the ball and then Kyler Murray doesn't throw it as much, and that sort of pushes more points towards Nick P. Um, and then it's going to be a weird. It's interesting how a lot of it rides sort of on this Buffalo New England matchup for Nick P. He's
Yeah,
really going to need weird players to step up for New England and Josh Allen to go off. Other than that, I mean, he's got Adams and Kelsey who are just solid, and I'm not crazy about Penny, but I feel like he's getting by with weird players, and he's just sort of have to stick with it. And he's made good
yeah.
calls all year, so I guess just trust your gut. But who are you leaning towards here?
I'm leaning towards Chris's team. I don't think Nick P has the matchups in his favor this week to be able to um, pull off an upset.
Yeah, and I haven't looked in too much about James Conner, but I'm not super hopeful for a Saturday matchup, and they have Chase Edmonds back. So even if he is back, how much touches will he get? So I'm really going to be on Chris Gregg, but I think that's really the big play is how big Connor can be. Can he go another 3 touchdown game or something crazy like that?
Yeah.
Okay, and now we have who is it? Lestrange and Snowball. Snowball getting hot.
Yeah.
What do you like? What do
Um,
you dislike with Rojo taking over with
oh,
Fournette out?
did not realize that he had Rojo. I was really concerned for his team because I knew that he was going to be without Fournette this week. Um, I will say, like, Fournette, I mean, Jones in games that Fournette was not active last year, um, Jones played fantastic. Like, if he gets the workload, which he will this week, um, I think he's going to be a good play. I'm not sure if he does what Fournette was able to do all year, but I think it's a solid play. Um, and Russell Gage has really like emerged as like a pretty solid receiver. He's been the number 5 wide receiver over the past 5 weeks, which is just like he's not done it with boom games. He's just done it with being consistent. So I think he's got a solid play with Gage against Detroit this week. He's got some great matchups this week going into the playoffs, and even Jacobs last week, going against Cleveland's defense, he's been really solid. He put up 10 points, pretty solid without a touchdown. So I mean, I'd be scared if I was Connor going into this week. I think Snowball might be a sneaky person to try and upset him this week.
Yeah, I really like Snowball's team. Connor has a lot of things kind of going against him. Mahomes looks good, but Pittsburgh's defense is scary. Um, Chubb versus Green Bay, he could find himself in a hole going down and having to score points, and Chubb won't really have the opportunity to run that much potentially. I still think he'll put up decent points, but there's a reason why his projection's so low. And then, we'll see what Eckler's usage is. I mean, he's still banged up. His snap count's really low. He's putting up the points, but I don't think you're going to see like a huge game because I think if they are up early, they might not use him too much.
Yeah,
And we're seeing Philly really commit to the run game, and Sanders really getting a lot more touches the last couple weeks. It's and then tight end, he lost Godwin. Hunter Henry, I think, is a good pickup, and I'm assuming he's going to play him.
I would imagine that he plays. I think that he'll probably play Henry because I think Fryermuth, he's still in concussion protocol.
Yeah, and just something about I don't know, something about Henry is a little bit more. I like a little bit more than Fryermuth. I guess just as an athlete, but then you're going against Andrews, so it's like things are
Yeah,
just really
and
not going towards his way, I guess.
Andrews has been absolutely amazing, like the past few weeks and just in general the entire season.
Yeah, he's taken the number one tight end spot. I mean, it doesn't really matter who's quarterback for him, so it's kind of crazy. He's literally the focal point of the offense. The one thing that could be a big thing for Connor that could be a saving grace is Tampa Bay defense versus Carolina. Carolina's turned the ball over a lot. They're not great. They're sort of falling apart. This is an easy get right game for Tampa Bay and beat up on them and potentially get like a plus 10 point performance. Whereas, Buffalo is going against New England, which I don't think New England's a great offense, but they don't. They're smart. They're not going to turn the
Yeah,
ball over as much, and that's going to be could be like a 10 point swing right there. Um, and then I'm not that Tucker is obviously the best kicker in the league, but Boswell's had a really good year, and it's another thing for Pittsburgh. Maybe they won't be able to finish drives, and they kick a lot of field goals.
yeah,
So I'm not sure he has like a huge advantage on the weird stuff. Metcalf's hard to rely on. Just Seattle in general is hard to rely on. But Samuel is going to have to, go off against a really strong Tennessee team. Strong Tennessee defense, I'll say. Um,
yeah.
so it's a matchup. It's all about matchups in fantasy. And while Connor has been absolutely dominant this whole year, I'm going to side with Snowball. Um,
I'm also gonna go with Snowball on the upset. I
yeah,
think he just got like I'm looking at this. You just got great matchups like all around on Steven's team. I think his worst matchup is Jones against Carolina, but again, he's gonna have the full workload. Um, whereas Connor's team, like Tennessee's defense has been surprisingly good at slowing down different teams. So I like you could like Debo could have a game where he doesn't give you that 28-30, and Metcalf has been struggling. Eckler could get kind of crunched on stuff. So
yeah, and
I
I
think it'd
mean,
be wild to see Steven take out Connor because he was like after the year Connor's had it. It'd be devastating to not make the championship with that type of roster.
yeah, and Snowball, he had CMC. That was his first pick,
And
and he's
yeah,
barely played. And Rojo, I mean, Carolina's been like a pretty good defense, but they're sort of falling apart. and they're just really inconsistent against the run. So I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up a 10-point plus game, and maybe he could get some receiving touchdowns too because he's not bad at the backfield. Do we want to go through the other matchups, the consolation of consolations, or I don't really feel too much of a
Um,
need.
I mean, yeah, it. I don't really think it's necessary. I will say the loser of the Matt's Chris Smart game, uh, like that determines basically who gets the fifth and sixth choice, and Alex and Stein's game also has some draft implications, but I don't think it's anything worth really going over.
Yeah. We'll go over them who won and lost next week. Just so we have an idea. But we're not really sure about what the lineups will be set for those games either. Um, and you want to touch on the Dynasty League just for a minute before we
Yep,
wrap it up?
we'll touch on Dynasty real quick.
Let me pull up the
Uh,
bracket if my mouse will work. There we go. A
so,
heartbreaker. Couple heartbreakers.
yeah. So both upsets. Chris Smart gets the upset over Alex, and Connor got the upset over me. That sets the championship game up as Connor and Chris Smart, which I think will. I don't think either one of them thought that they were going to win last week, and hey, there you are, first and second place right there. It's between them. That locks me in with, I believe, the fifth pick in the draft, based on like standings and stuff. Yep, Alex finished with more points than me, so I'll be drafting fifth, and Alex has the sixth pick in the draft.
Yeah, the projections were crazy. I just feel for Alex having most points throughout the year, and then his team lays an absolute goose egg. Half of his projection. I mean, there's so many players, it's so much can go wrong. And it's not like Chris Smart's team balled out either way. Very weird year, or just weak to have
Yeah,
that happen. But that's fantasy for you. So good luck to Smart and Lestrange. We'll see. It looks like it might be a close matchup, but hard to predict with that many players in the game. Yeah. Anything else
I
you want to
also
say?
saw that. I also saw that you lost to Stein last week, so you and Chris are playing for last place.
My team is not great. I had an okay showing though for in comparison to most players last week. I had a pretty good showing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I gotta start looking at the picking up players for next year. Really looking ahead. Maybe picking up Ben Roethlisberger if he does a swan song out into a different league. Uh, but all right, we're wrapping up. We will see you guys next week.